Are we live?
We are
Hey,
live.
we are live. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. As Jennifer told you, we had a little bit of technical difficulty this morning. So I'm a panelist, but now I'm a facilitator. If I'm a little bumpy on this, bear with me. We had some technical difficulties and Jennifer can't get her audio to dial in correctly. So we are really, really grateful that you're joining us today for Cultivating Strong Board Relations in Virtual Times, because it's been interesting. I'm sure all of you know that. And I just lost now the deck. So I'm going to have to pull that up another way. Let me grab, so let me just start by saying my name is Kim Lanfear, and once I get everybody introduced, while they're introducing themselves, I will go get the deck another way so that I have it in front of me and I know what I'm looking at. But I am Aparo's Chief Executive Officer, and am very excited about this conversation today. We've been having some really interesting virtual board meetings. They've been incredibly well attended, which is fantastic. And I am excited to hear what the others on this panel have to say about this and the technical aspects of it, as well as the human aspects of how this has been working and not working and evolving for organizations. So with that, I'm going to turn it to my fellow panelists to introduce themselves. Let me give a little background. My background is I started in the corporate world in banking. I worked with Citibank for 5 years and a savings and loan before that, mostly in marketing and strategic planning. I did that both domestically and globally. And then I changed into the not-for-profit world. I ran a professional theater up in Chicago, moved overseas, came to Charlotte, North Carolina, did a bunch of consulting, and then found Aparo, and here I am. So a nice career jungle gym. And with that introduction, I'm going to turn it to Stephanie McKee, who is also an Aparo teammate.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm Stephanie McKee. I'm the Director of Technology Engagements for Aparo. And sorry, Kim, I'm like trying to share my screen at the same time. Great to be here. My background is I've been with Aparo just over 7 years, and I'm out in the community working with nonprofits, helping to bring them IT resources, guidance, and advice around technology. And I have about 25 plus years in technology around infrastructure, hardware, and software. Thanks for joining us. I'll turn it over to Elizabeth McKee.
Thanks, Stephanie. Good morning, good afternoon now, everybody. I am Elizabeth McKee. I'm the Executive Director of Leadership Charlotte. I've been in this role for 14 years now, and Leadership Charlotte is an organization that was founded in 1978 and is focused on bringing people from all across our community together to enhance their community knowledge, to expand their civic network, and to give them opportunities to serve. So we have about 2,000 people that have been through this organization since its beginning in 1978. So that means I'm, I don't know, at a couple of, almost 1,000 that have been through under my tenure. Happy to be here and to talk about what we've been doing with our board. Sandra?
Yes, I'm up. I'll take the last one. So my name is Sandra Conway. I am the Executive Director with the Matthews Help Center. I have been here for 6 years, and I have been in this role for the past 2 years. And we've been part of the community since 1979. So Elizabeth, you got us beat by 1 year. So we'll both be turning 41 in November. But we are a place, a nonprofit to help our neighbors during times of struggle. We're helping with housing and utilities, transportation, food. They can go shopping in our thrift shop, and we have a couple other side programs. So we've been really busy. Our volume has tripled over the last couple of months, and I'm excited to be here to share some things that we're doing with our board.
Okay. Stephanie, I'm going to share my screen because then I can also drive it. So if you don't mind, I'm going to do that. So there we go. Hopefully you all can see the presentation. Can you see the presentation? I hope you can. And I went a little backwards. So now that I am got the deck with me, I'm going to go backwards because I'm supposed to make sure that you know about Aparo's upcoming program, which is called Mission Possible. It is a program that is aligned to economic opportunities. So if you are a nonprofit who has an idea in your head that you think you could either expand on a current program that you're offering around one of the 5 pillars of economic mobility in our community, or if you are currently offering them and you want to grow it, or you want to make that program more effective or efficient the way you do that through business processes or technology, then Mission Possible is the program for you. It is an amazing grant opportunity where the winner will receive $10,000 and $50,000 of Accenture consulting to make their idea for improving economic mobility stronger. And along the way, even if you don't win, you will receive 15 hours of coaching from Accenture that will help you solidify an idea that even if you didn't win this proposal, you would be well positioned to go and submit that proposal somewhere else or work with a different APARO program to make that a reality. So we hope you'll be part of that. We are accepting applications through Wednesday, September 30th. They're easy applications, they're letters of intent. So we'll hope you'll join us in that Mission Possible program. Now back to our feature program. And thank you again to these wonderful panelists. You've got a great group here to learn from today. So I want to talk a little bit about virtual board meetings and how they've gone and how they've changed and what you've experienced in this space. I'm going to start with Sandra. Tell me how many you've had since COVID started, and what's the cadence of your board meetings, and what have you found to be the most interesting takeaways?
Yeah, so we jumped into that realm pretty quickly. So in our last official board meeting was in February. It just so happened was our strategic planning session that we had in February. So in March we began going Zoom, and so it's been going really well. I think over the life, we've had a meeting every month. We did take the month of August off, but I will say that I have a board of 12, and not everybody is able to maneuver this platform. And so that was something that I had to kind of keep in mind. There's folks that are calling in, they may not be able to share and see screen things. So just making sure that they have all the information up front. If I'm going to show a video, if I'm going to have handouts, making sure those folks who can't view it have the ability to still participate.
Yeah, I found that those handouts, anything that was physical was a little tricky for us to wrap our hands around at first. Once we got it, it was okay, but there's that whole mailing piece that we hadn't done before. We'd always done it, in person, so it was right there. We could control it that day, and we have to be a little bit more ahead of the game for
Right.
those pieces that have to be in front of them. Elizabeth, what have you found, and how often are you meeting, and what's your cadence and engagement?
It's interesting. So the whole thing around handouts is, for years now, we have been emailing everything. So if our board members wanted something printed, they brought it with them, but most of them have been on their laptops or their pads or tablets or whatever in our actual meetings, just to pick up that thread. So we had a board meeting scheduled on the Tuesday that everything got locked down. And of course, Queens was like, nope, sorry, you can't meet. So we didn't have time to pivot for that board meeting. So we had to do another one. So our schedule got a little wonky. We meet once a month, either full board or executive committee, and take July and August off. So those first couple of board meetings were, as you would expect, everybody's freezing because we're not on our routers, as close to our routers as we should be, or we're not hooked up, hardwired, or anything like that. This past August, though, we had our board opening, and of course, that's a longer period of time than our typical board meetings, and got to do breakout rooms, got to do icebreakers, not the right word, but some more in-depth conversations and bouncing back and forth from breakout rooms and having greater interaction. And it worked really, really well.
That's great. I'll answer for our own cadence. Our cadence is every other month. It sounds like several of you are, and we have the same kind of thing. March was a meeting, and that kind of thing. So I wanted to turn it over to Stephanie too. First of all, we've had great engagement. We've had better we've always had good attendance. It hasn't been a problem. Attendance hasn't been a problem. And we've had a virtual ability to dial in. But the dial in has always been horrible, just horrible quality, nasty. And so now we have the Zoom thing, which is like, wow, look, people can like dial in. And now we have 100% attendance. Maybe 99.9%, but literally almost everybody's there every time. And we, Elizabeth, do the same thing. We send out things electronically. The few things that are, we might pass around, for signature, maybe minutes or something like that. We had to revamp how we did that. But yeah, they're going swimmingly. But I want to turn over to Stephanie a little bit to talk about the technology, because I know when we first launched it, there were a lot of questions, and there have been questions ongoing as we pivot and think about things to engage with the board meeting, and kind of turn it to you of what you've learned about helping virtual board meetings happen, and what were the questions that came to you in the process?
Thanks, Kim. Kind of made me cringe when you use the word dial up.
That's right.
Reminds me of the old days. So we transitioned to Zoom before COVID. But most of our folks would always meet in person versus connecting through Zoom, or we used GoToMeeting in the past. So I think the biggest challenge for us was trying to figure out if we wanted to use breakout rooms for different committees to meet, as well as just the staying connected, being on video, being present, because a lot of people don't like to be on video in these meetings. And then another challenge is just being able to see everyone on one screen without having to scroll through to see who else participating. So I think that was one of the big challenges for us, but Zoom's made some setting changes where you can actually get more than 10 people on your screen, because we have usually about 24 to 25, Kim, that join our Zoom board meetings now. So those have been some of the biggest challenges, just really the internet connectivity, depending on what your home. I know I've been experiencing it in my home. I have to move to certain areas to be able to have a clear connection. But yeah, I mean, it seems to, every other month we meet, and it seems to be working well for us overall.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Stephanie, before I break back to the others, something on the functionality of Zoom that I thought might be helpful to those who are listening, and also panelists, and to refresh me. The Zoom breakouts. I know that we've done Zoom breakouts where you're in the meeting and then you break them out, but there's a way to predetermine them, but there are some catches, that you don't want to get caught in about, okay, I know these 10 people are going to be in this one breakout room, these 5 are going to be in these other, and these 3 are going to be this other. And I know it before I come into the meeting, so I set it up. But what are the things that people need to know about how that can go awry if you do it before the meeting?
It's a good question, Kim, because I know we had that challenge at one of our meetings, and it's really easy to create those breakout sessions if you have a list of people on the fly. But if you do it before, and I can't remember exactly, Kim, I apologize.
No, I'm having the same thing, which is why, I threw you there.
Yeah, there was something.
Hey, Stephanie, I was going to say, I know you can't see me, but oh my gosh, is there a terrible echo?
No, there's not an echo. We're all good.
Okay, perfect. So, Stephanie, yes, we had a very painful experience with those pre-assigning Zoom meetings, and it's 2 issues. Number one is, if you want to pre-assign, all of your attendees have to have a Zoom account so that they have a Zoom email address, right? And a lot of participants really don't want to create, even though it's free and there's no charge, it's an extra step. So they have to have that. And then the second issue is, if you pre-assign breakout rooms and whatnot, and then anything changes with an email address or an attendee address changes, it breaks the link and you have to pre-assign everybody again. So just a couple of gotchas that you have to be aware of.
Thank you, Jennifer. I knew there was something. I couldn't remember who in our team had been involved with that, so I'm glad you were here to help us on that. But yeah, so that's the pre-assigning is really tricky. Really tricky. I don't know if any of you have tried that. Has anybody tried it on this panel and had it be successful? Well, now you know why.
Because not everybody has a Zoom account. We had thought about it, but realized that we couldn't do it. And you know, luckily enough, I have a staff member who is able to do that for us as we need to. But also, I mean, that's mostly with our larger groups. With our board's only 16. And Sandra, I think you said yours was 15, 12?
12.
Yeah, with that size, not that difficult to toss them while you're in the meeting.
Yeah.
So what have you done as an organization to keep the camaraderie in the virtual environment, you know, to keep it so that it's lively and it's not just stayed? And, you know, what have you done anything that have worked or things that didn't work?
I'll go first on that one. And I think that's the one thing, is trying to keep everybody engaged, because you don't know what they're doing if they're going off screen. You don't even know sometimes what they're doing when they're on screen. And so we just really try to create some fun. So the very beginning is just doing the normal things you do in a meeting. It's just doing a board check-in. Hey, what's going on with you guys right now? What's going on in your world? So they can kind of bring a little bit of that to the group and everybody can kind of share. And then just always trying to keep our mission front and forward. So I always try to go into and have a client story or an impact testimony or something along that lines. And then you mentioned icebreaker, Elizabeth, and I think that's really important. And so some of the fun things that I've been doing is that we've had a couple of our board members who've done some really fun stuff. So I found one of our board members that had a TikTok video that went viral. She's one of our police officers, and so I got to show that on screen. She was mortified. But I mean, how fun is that just to share in that moment? And it kind of breaks up the monotony of having a board meeting, to have some really fun things kind of pop out at you. Some other things we've done before is, what's your favorite fast food chicken? I mean, there's a huge debate on Chick-fil-A versus Popeyes versus Bojangles. That will bring about a lot of dialogue. I'm thinking maybe in November, we may meet, we may not meet, but I don't know if you've seen it, but Brock's has their candy, like the candy pumpkins. Well, they have a Thanksgiving dinner version. And I thought, how fun will that be if we're in person to have everybody try it? Who doesn't like to eat snacks when you're at a board meeting? Or maybe somehow get a packet to them so we could all open it up together and have Thanksgiving dinner via Zoom, or our platform is Microsoft Teams. So those are some things.
That's amazing. So we, even prior to this, we start every board meeting with one specific board member takes on a reflection. And so they can talk about anything they want to, but it's supposed in some way, shape, or form tied to our mission or their experience within Leadership Charlotte. But it can be personal about leadership. It can be anything. And we've had from personal hardships in terms of people that are going through diagnoses, to people telling hilarious stories about their children, and so that has always served as a way to kind of bring us back together, because, you know, our board members, they're not in this every single day like we are, and giving them a chance to reconnect with the reason that they're there. And we have a pretty tight board. I mean, they know each other pretty well, and we push them to know each other pretty well. So sometimes it's more about taming the lion than goosing the mouse, in terms of having people stop talking rather than encouraging them to talk.
We have similar. So our board has always done a happy hour after the board meeting. And so we have kept that tradition, though it's really dwindled. I'm glad to hear some of your ideas, because I've been thinking we need to do something to enliven that social aspect of the board meeting again. And with 26, it can be hard, even though they know each other well. It still can be hard.
Yeah.
I definitely think happy hours on Zoom are challenging.
Yeah, you bring your glass up and it's just, can you see my glass? Yeah, it's just not the same.
Yeah, and just the, dynamic of one person can only talk at a time, whereas if you're in person, you've got little small groups. So
I have a gift.
challenged me.
There is a platform called Yo Tribe, YOTRBE, and we've been using that for our socials, and it's been so much fun. I don't know if y'all have ever used it to try that as a, to shift from Zoom to Yo Tribe. For those of you who are joining us, the participants, if you haven't heard of Yo Tribe, it's a virtual cocktail party, sort of. I mean, you're in a virtual space, but you're not stuck in this, like the frame that we're in right now. You can move your avatar around and meet up with other people. And for
Did I tell you about that, Elizabeth?
We used
Did
that
I
for
tell
our
you about
fundraiser
that? We used that for our fundraiser ball.
back in August.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We've been using it since May, I guess. Somebody in last year's class introduced, an event planner introduced me to it.
It's a cool tool, and it's a game changer for conversations, for sure. And it's good to bring that up, because even though we've used it for our fundraiser, I hadn't really thought about using it for the board meeting. And that could be a great way to start the meeting. The snag being that you've got to jump between two platforms.
Yeah.
So you got to go from one to another. But it worked. We had 300 people, and they moved from one to another. So it can be done.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or ideas? And I also should say, while our panelists are thinking about other things that they're doing, engage the board members. There is the Q&A that is open, and I will refer to that. So if you have questions that come up, because I know all of our attendees are muted, please put them in the Q&A. I'll see them, I'll bring them to the group, and we'll explore more conversations. One of the things that was on our, well, I'll pause if there was anything else anybody wanted to share about engaging and keeping it personal. And if not, I'll move on.
I mean, I'll just add that I feel like that there are a lot of fun things that I probably don't know about. I mean, Sandra, I love your idea of doing like the poll about like who's got the best chicken or whatever. I've also, from some of the other leadership programs talking about their board meetings or even their class, their participants, having everybody take a picture of their feet, of what they're wearing on their feet, because
that's funny.
Barefoot or in or they've got shorts on. Well, hopefully they have shorts on. So funny things like that, or everybody shares a picture of their coworkers for the morning.
Oh, that's cute. Those are great ideas. So you do that in the middle at the beginning of the meeting, and you have them put it in the chat or something?
Yeah, or I like holding up their phones, I guess, too, would be one way to look at it. I'm not sure about adding photos.
I don't know either, because how would you get it from your phone to the platform?
Yeah.
One thing we did was we said once, we're going to have a competition for creative backdrops, the things behind us. And that was a fun meeting, because people came in with some really funny, different backdrops. And half of them forgot. And then, that they were scrambling in the meeting to find something fun. And so that was, and somebody won something. We sent them and I'll share a link with you guys. We sent them a cup of coffee is what we sent them to Starbucks if they won.
Yeah.
And they got to vote on it. There was a poll, you got to vote, who has the neatest, coolest background. And the way we've been doing this, I'll share this tool with you. You may already know it. It has nothing to do with board meetings at all. It has to do with, I was just in another panel conversation, a breakout room conversation about how you're lifting spirits and getting people, reaching out to them in a more personal way. And I found this platform called Thanks. It's spelled THNKS. So it's thanks without the A, without the vowel. and .com. And you create an account, and it's the friggin' easiest thing you can imagine. It's got things for under $25. It's got things that are bigger than $25. So we always give a gift to people on their anniversary, their work anniversary, and we do that usually in person. And we, it's a floral arrangement is what it is, and we just thank them with a card, but we're not in person. So for work anniversaries, I've been doing stuff off of there. We've been doing things off of there. Maybe a package of popcorn that they can use with their whole family, and use it for watching a movie or something. Different kinds of things. But in there, this under $25 group, there's a million things you can do for $6. And you just send an email and you write your personal note in there. You won the background, whatever. And suddenly you've sent a personal gift that they can use. It just becomes a URL that they can flash and pay for at Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, or what else have they got? They've just got all kinds of things on there. Those are the ones I use, obviously, but there's a million other ones. So if you ever have a need for that, you can use that too.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Good one. Yeah.
It's a good find. I use it with my kids too. When I want to encourage them, I send them, Starbucks or whatever. I think I'm doing a commercial for Starbucks. I need to stop that. So let's get back to virtual board meetings. And one of the things we wanted to talk about today was meeting etiquette and what you found, how people are behaving from an etiquette standpoint in the board meetings. Has that changed at all? And what do you find works the best from the standpoint of you as the CEO, as well as from the people who were in the board meeting? Dress code, anything?
Yeah, I'll jump in if that's okay. I think the hardest thing has been for some of our folks. So we have 2 or 3 corporate people that cannot use their work computers to get to Zoom, which is really
interesting.
So they are mandated to call in on a phone, and haven't done, like, they've been on the phone and it's too frustrating to try to see everybody, because you have to scroll through on your phone and stuff. And so not being able to see everyone, to gauge engagement, to kind of see if they're paying attention, to see if they're looking and following and things like that. I think that's been our biggest challenge, and that's not really etiquette. That's more of just a challenge that they have. Some etiquette in how do you making space for everyone to talk without speaking over each other. That's been, that's a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Any thoughts that you've seen? What are you seeing as far as dress code? I mean, are people just doing the formal, or are you seeing people getting more and more casual? What are you seeing in that space?
I'm pretty much seeing the same. Sandra, what about you?
Yeah, I think that my first couple meetings, I loved it because I saw somebody who is always coming from work and is very polished, and she had her hair in a ponytail, and I thought, oh wow, I've never seen her like that before. So I think I just think because you can be a little more casual with the Zoom meetings, and it's a lot more real, I think. And so I haven't seen anybody that's been inappropriate. I was on another Zoom meeting where one of her children came through and was getting dressed, and so that was kind of funny. We're like, oh wait, wait a second, what did we just see? We didn't have very appropriate, but it surprised her and surprised him. But we haven't seen anything like that. Just the more casual vibe. I've seen people sitting in maybe their favorite chair at home. I've seen pets pop up. It's all good.
Kind of fun, actually. Like,
it's kind of fun, yeah.
Someone's home, especially if I've never seen it before, right? Of space, and this wouldn't work for a board meeting, but at a certain time with my staff meetings, when we went virtual, I would ask them to pick up something to have like a show and tell at our weekly stand-up staff meeting, to just say, show me something in your house that you love. With 16 board members, that's probably not feasible, but just something to share about who you are as a person outside of how we know you is always fun.
I love that idea. I love that idea. And I want to ask one more cultural question kind of on the same vein, and then I want to bring it back to Stephanie for some more technical questions about it too. Have you seen that the virtuality has enabled any taking off the gloves? People maybe behaving in ways that they wouldn't if they were in person. Like, is there anything as an ED that you need to prepare for? I've seen some aggressive behavior, and I wonder if any of you have seen any of that. And I don't know if it's moderated because of the Zoom or if that's just individuals, but I just wondered if any of you are seeing some of that too.
I don't think I've seen anything different. I mean, we do have pretty open and honest conversations, and encourage people to assert themselves. And I haven't seen. It could be that people feel more comfortable to speak up sooner.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
The introverts might feel more comfortable speaking up sooner, but nothing really that we wouldn't have seen in a board meeting face to face, I don't think.
Yeah.
Sandra, anything that you see?
No, I nothing along what you had mentioned, Kim, but I do have a couple of board members who tend to be more quiet in the setting when we're actually together. And they seem to have more to say during these meetings. And
Isn't that great? That's a wonderful enabler.
Encouraging and refreshing. And I always send them an email afterwards and say, hey, thank you. That was a really great idea. I'm so glad you mentioned that, just to encourage that.
So Stephanie, I'm going to throw a couple of questions your way, thinking about how you set up things about roles and expectations of people in using a Zoom meeting for this kind of, this type of meeting is a little different because it has to be really spot on. So there's a lot of pressure to make it run very effectively. And so are there things around security or roles and expectations that you would suggest people consider before, and during?
Yeah, a few things. I would make sure to have at least, like with Zoom, you can have up to, I believe it's 3 administrators running a Zoom session. So I definitely have at least 2 people that are logging in as a Zoom administrator, just in case that one person experiences connectivity issues, or their internet just drops totally and they disappear out of the Zoom meeting. Someone else will be there to run the session until they can get reconnected. Around security for Zoom or Teams or any of these other virtual platforms, you definitely want to have it password protected. That will help in preventing what they call Zoom bombers coming in.
Talk about that a little bit. What does that mean to set that up? To set up a password versus not?
Well, to set it up, it's basically just a checkbox that you can configure in Zoom as a default setting, or you can do it per meeting. The way we do it is we have it set as a default setting. So each time someone creates a new meeting, it automatically gives a unique password, and that information is sent out to the end user that's invited to the meeting. Another security setting is the waiting room, where the administrator will check each person in. And we have that set up as a default as well. So we can see who is joining. And back to having the multiple administrators, having, like Jennifer, this is a good, for instance, technology issues on the facilitators, and Jennifer was able to turn that over to Kim to run this webinar because she was having technical difficulty with one of her laptops. So definitely having a backup in place just in case there's a technical issue. I was trying to think if there's anything else those are kind of the default things
you brought
that we
something
do.
up that made me think about recording. So we have done recordings of our board meetings because it helps us go back and tighten up minutes and things like that. And if somebody didn't attend, we could let them hear it. What are the other panelists' thoughts about recording versus not recording?
No, we don't. And I don't know. My gut says no, but some of that too is because confidentiality is such, and it is for everybody I know, but it's such an integral part of how we present our programming, how we present, and the minutes serve as the way to have the external version, and the board meeting ought to be a place where our board members can come together and say anything they need to say without anything being taken out of context or something like that. That's how I feel. Sandra?
Yeah, it's never come up, and it's not something we had done in our prior board meeting, so it's one of those things that just, when you mentioned it, I thought, well, why would we do that? Why would we do that? I mean, other organizations may feel a need to do that, but no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, and just so I'm clear, we don't store it. We record it and use it to make sure, if there's a question going back to minutes, did we capture that right, and that kind of thing. And in a few cases, we've had board members say, I can't make it. Could you record it so I can hear it? So we've had actual reaching out to do that.
Yeah.
And what I hoped you were going to say, but you didn't, so now I got to say it, is that if you do, you want to make sure people know that you are, right? So that you're not doing something that is, and they will anyway, because they'll see the little red button up in the left-hand corner. So they'll know that it's recording, but you want to make sure, and going back to the whole, best practices around some of these things, that you make sure that people are aware of it so that they can, know they're being recorded, for lack of a better way to say that. And that's kind of some of those ethical questions. I mean, you can see how, folks responded. Well, that's important. It's really important that you address those before it actually happens.
Kim, I had a question for you. One of the things
Looking good, Jennifer.
Yes, I'm not. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
How crazy is this? Anyway, so my question is this, for those of you that are running board meetings, some of the best practices that have been floating around online have to do with reducing your agenda by 20% or reducing tasks by 20% or whatnot to your board members who are participating in virtual meetings. And I wondered, is that your experience, each of you? Is that ringing true? I just found it a little interesting to read about that, so wondered.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't adjusted my board agenda, but what I have found, though, being on this new platform, that the meetings are actually quicker than in person, and so I haven't changed what we're doing. I don't know if we're more efficient or they're thinking about what else they have to do after the meeting and they want to get it done. But we're having really great board meetings, but we're just getting it done a lot quicker. Maybe there's less chit chat because we're not together side by side, and maybe we're missing some of those side conversations. But I didn't find that to be true.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think so there hasn't been a definitive choice to cut content, but it does feel like, and I would attribute this to COVID for us, it feels like that the that we know that we have to get to the real stuff, and there's all the extraneous stuff that maybe we can put in the parking lot and deal with in 3 months or 6 months when we're all back together. It's really easy to prioritize things. Now the flip side of that, and this is something similar to what Sandra said, is that I have had board members say, I miss walking up the stairs with y'all. I miss, I miss the side conversations. I miss being able to say directly and look at your face and say, oh my gosh, how's this going? So anyway. Jennifer, you're muted.
My Tahiti cup again. Another question I wanted to ask you guys who are running the board meetings. I was reading some information about people finding that they're really having to clarify more carefully or even revisit issues that were discussed in a virtual environment versus what they might have experienced in a face-to-face environment. And so I wondered, are you guys finding that as well? Like, are you having to revisit points or spend a lot more time clarifying? Or are you finding that, no, the streams of communication are pretty clear and we're nailing our content very quickly?
I'm not finding that I have to do more clarification. I'm finding that the conversations and the pre-reads that are sent out, and I'm finding that, no. And my answer would be no, I'm not finding that.
I would agree. I'm not finding that as well.
Ditto.
So I think that's a positive thing, because what it tells us is that, I don't know, some of this stuff that people are speculating about online may not actually come to fruition in this environment. I think these folks are pontificating perhaps what you might encounter in virtual times. But in any case, those were the questions I had, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer them.
Yeah, I mean, I find that the conversations are just as rich. I find that we miss the personality of it, the touch, the hug. I mean, we were a big hugging board. So we missed that part of it, and the gathering together over drinks afterwards to have social time is missed. But I don't find that the work is done any less efficiently, effectively, or repetitively by having this engagement versus others. And what I do find is richer engagement from those who have a harder time getting to the meeting in person. With 25 board members, there are always some who just can't be there. And this allows them a much richer engagement and actually evens the playing field when everybody's all there virtually. You don't have somebody who's, trying to tag in and, people who aren't paying attention to the screen or whatever it is. So it's actually a equalizer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some of my board members who, to physically get to a board meeting and then get to work for a follow-up, if they had a meeting on the back side or if they had a meeting on the front side. Our meetings are at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning. So unless we're serving mimosas, no drinks for us, unfortunately. But what has happened is that engagement piece is there's easier access, like you're saying, Kim, because somebody's already there, or all they have to do is flip, platforms or flip meetings. And that has provided sometimes the missing voices that we've really wanted to be there, who, occasionally there's a board member who, one of my board members who worked for the county would, because of COVID, would have random meetings come up and had no control over them whatsoever, right? So we're in this really strange time, but also with unprecedented access, which has been a gift.
I would also say, I was thinking while you were talking, and the thought may have just gone out of my mind. Oh, I know what the question was. I had kind of a question. So, we've been really lucky because we have Stephanie and Ben and Jennifer and other people who are, available to help with the technology. So when we first started going down and having glitches, there they were, right with us. Was it an issue at all for folks who didn't have that walking right beside them, who were, okay, I'm going to flip the switch, here we go?
Well, I'm really fortunate that my board chair works for a company, Centric. And so I knew I could just go to that person and say, can you just make all this happen? And then I have another person who could be the backfill in case that were something were to pop up. So that has been a huge, I'm very thankful to have that person have that team on my board. So I'm very fortunate.
So my network person, at least on my screen, is to my left. Her name is Stephanie McKee. But the parentheses after executive director in my title is technology Jill of all trades. Looking at the Leadership Charlotte Technology Department between Stephanie and myself. Without Stephanie, we wouldn't have been able to do anything that we did with our move this past summer. So yeah, those first glitches, like when I tell you that, being far away from the router or not being able to connect with the wireless router in the back of the house, and talk, and then have a board member going, Elizabeth, you're frozen. So aggravating. So yeah, I'm hoping to build a technology department one day.
There you go. There you go. Well, Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you since you're back with us, and wrap us up. If there's anything I've missed or you want me to pull the screen back up, I can do that.
So thanks, Kim. I appreciate it. I did want to just mention, if anybody out there listening hasn't dipped their toe into the virtual meeting world yet, and you're just not exactly sure, how to go about that or what tools are out there, that's what we do at Aparo, and we're more than happy to have a conversation with you, and much in the way that you've heard today, kind of offer pointers and advice from our own experience or from that of our partnerships. So we'll be happy to help you out with that if you haven't dipped your toe, or even if you have and you've bumped up against a barrier, maybe we can help you figure that out. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. And then Kim, when I was sort of in limbo land here, technology-wise, I'm not sure, did you guys touch on the Mission Possible slide?
I did.
Excellent.
I was a good person. I went back to it and covered it.
Perfect. I appreciate it. So that was the other thing I just wanted to mention, invite people in, come on board if you're interested, and if you have questions, by all means, let us know. And with that, guys, I think that brings our content to a close for the day. We're going to give you back a few minutes. Consider that our gift on a Thursday afternoon. And, we sure appreciate everybody taking time to join in and listen in as we share this information with you. And always share feedback with us. If you have ideas on topics you want us to cover, or you have ideas on things we might do differently with some of our webinars, let us know. We're open to your feedback, and we'd like to know how to make it as valuable as possible for you.
And I don't get a chance to be here very often. I don't get a chance to be here very often. They don't let me, come on the screen very often. But
we let her out today.
I am getting a second version of the next panel discussion that we're going to be leading, which is about the virtual extravaganza. How do you put together a virtual event? And we'll have multiple EDs from the area as part of that discussion as well, who've had success, who've had to pivot on a dime, talking about, we will be talking about the technology choices that they made and how it worked, how it didn't work, things they learned. I'll be on that panel as well as some other EDs and marketing people from the area. So look
That'll
for that.
be happening on October 22nd.
Oh, great.
12 noon. Yeah, we hope to see you guys back there in our listening land. Join us again. And again, thank you for your time today, panelists. We sure appreciate you sharing your expertise. This is kind of what helps our community tick, right? When we share lessons learned and help each other do even better than what we're doing today. So we appreciate you giving us your time and sharing your expertise. And of course, I'm a lucky duck because I have access to Kim and Stephanie a lot more than the rest of you guys, since I'm in house with them. But I'll thank them anyway. And I appreciate all of your time and effort to pull this material together for us today. And guys, I hope you have a great rest of your day.